it's all happening again. We're clans, we're tribes, we're super tribes, but it's happening online. And we no longer have to live in geographic proximity in order to achieve this sense of tribalism. We call it something different. Desmond and Morris called it tribes and super tribes. We call it virtual communities. That's what we're dealing with today. Social networking. What is social networking? I mean, it's the act of doing all of this stuff. It's the act of mobile marketing and social networking. To me, social networking used to be I go to a cocktail party and I bump into the brother-in-law of a cousin of a guy I used to know that I went to school with, and we had a couple pops together, and he tries to fix me up with his ugly sister, you know, or something. That used to be networking. And that used to be how business was done. It's not how it's done now. Without any further explanation, you guys know where I'm going with this. It's done in a digital environment. So it's changed materially. Let's talk about the impact. And this is where I want you to spend your time on your final project. So we've got all these things and probably more that I haven't thought to add here. How about these things? So let me tell you what I think, and then you tell me what you think. I think that social networking, customer relationship, all these kinds of things here is going to be good, inexpensive marketing. You get increased attention and marketing provided to the business, little or no cost. Banner and text advertising, not even going to talk about it. It's a thing that's here and now and only going to get bigger, much, much, much bigger in the future. Customer relationship management tools, social networking websites, global exposure, online meeting places. You no longer will have to get on an airplane to meet with colleagues. This is all something that's going to happen. And it's happening already. But here are the issues that I want you to deal with. Brands. Let me stop talking for a minute and ask you some questions. Chris, you're in my advertising management class. How do you build a brand today, right now, right here, right now? How would you build a brand? In fact, you have an assignment to build a brand, that banana squash thing I told you about. How are you going to
banana sauce?
Banana sauce. Yeah.
You build a brand with customer loyalty, integrated campaign with and with the integrated campaign, there's a lot of different functions and mediums.
Talk about that a little bit, the integrated campaign.
You could put it, you have a website, you can have print ad, you can have commercials, and you have radio ad, and how you want to present it, like it can pulse, and the timing, and the reach and the frequency.
What's the overarching thematic, if I can call it that, of an integrated campaign? What makes it integrated? Yes, you have all these things.
So with the integrated campaign is it has to be seamless, so you have one idea throughout the whole thing. There's one focus. So when people, if they get a radio ad, or they get a commercial, or they get a print ad, they get the same idea, they get the same focus, and they get the same brand integrity, identity in their head, and then they can spread it virally, and which is like the most important.
And bingo, you start putting these little building blocks together, and you put the word out there. It has a family resemblance, and everything starts to look like you give a concerted message, and you start to build a brand asset. You get all this, right? Even though you're not in the advertising management class. It's not new rocket science. It just has to be stated that way. Here's what's going to happen in the future. This is me talking. Here's what I predict is going to happen in the future. Brands will be built not only on commercial propositions, the way they're built now, value propositions, commercial propositions, value promises, brand promises, those kinds of words that are used so liberally, sprinkled so fluently in today's marketing roundtables. Brands will be built on cultural and social missions as well as their commercial propositions. What do I mean by that? Marketing historically has been obsessed with the concept of positioning. How you are different from your competitors within that category. Increasingly, great brands are realizing, and will realize even more in the future, that people don't necessarily see these category distinctions, and they certainly don't obsess about them. What actually matters to people, real people's consumers, is having a point of view of the world, a cultural mission to ask people to rally around you. You can see this coming to life in marketing ideas like Dove's campaign for real beauty. They're not talking about how rich and creamy their soap is. They're talking about the self-esteem. Whether you buy into it or not, guys, you're talking about the self-esteem of young girls, of young women, 12, 13, 14 years old. How people who have weight problems, too fat, too skinny, you're talking about self-esteem issues, come from homes that are maybe not ideal, come from financial circumstances that are not ideal, come from handicapped, disabled, differently abled households. This Dove is launching a campaign not about their soap, which is good. It's launching a campaign about its people. It crosses a lot of these lines. Certainly it's global. Certainly it's customer relationship management of a sort. Certainly it's a virtual community, and certainly it's social networking. But this is not about you pay me $2 and you get this wonderful bar of soap. This is you buy our soap because our soap supports you. Or our soap supports you, therefore you ought to support our soap. It's a quid pro quo, but it's based on social, not commercial standards. It's a cultural revolution. Can only have happened because of the digital environment. This is going on now. It will be in the future embedded into the very DNA of a company. It's going to be as important as media planning, as account planning. It's going to be, well, what are we going to do socially to make us a good company? We are no longer, in the future, we will no longer try to sell things. We will try to make people think about stuff. Think about not only our stuff, but our stuff as regards everybody else. And if we are doing socially conscientious acts and other people aren't, there's our differentiator. That's what makes us a great brand and everybody else a brand. Okay, you follow me? That's different. That's quintessentially different than anything we've done so far. I need you to think about that for your final project. Marketing will be less about who you are. It will be much more about what you do. It will be, let me try to explain it differently. Marketing will be about what you do, not what you say. That's even a better way of describing it. We say we make the best cereal on earth. Forget about the best cereal on earth. We feed hungry orphans in Namibia. We save wildlife in Botswana. We promote college educations for people in Harlem. We do all these things, not because we make a great cereal. We do all these things because we are socially responsible, because we're good corporate people, and oh, by the way, we put the same level of care and attention and social consciousness into our products. That's almost an afterthought. It used to be the exact opposite. We make a great cereal, therefore you ought to buy our cereal, and oh, by the way, we'll take 5% of our earnings and we'll save the wild horses in Nevada. Okay? It's changing. The emphasis, because of the digital environment, is coming completely around. So marketing will be about what you do, not what you say. So it's been far too long that the notion of saying things at people rather than doing things for people or with people has been the hallmark of advertising and marketing. Great marketing will increasingly be about what you do, not what you say. And that means rather than being a silo within a business, marketing needs to be pervasive. It needs to be horizontal throughout the entire organization. Every aspect of the organization now becomes focused differently. Do you know what I mean by being a silo? In a big organization, it used to be...
Full of grain.
Yeah, but it's vertical. It's vertical. So it used to be, oh, we've got production, we got research and development, we got production, we've got manufacturing, we've got research, we've got advertising and marketing, we've got human resources, sales, distribution. Used to have all these verticals. And now, all of a sudden, you may still have verticals, but your social consciousness suddenly becomes horizontal. It comes across, whether you're in human resources or whether you're in research or whether you're in sales or whether you're in distribution. It's about what you do as a company, what you put forward as a company. No longer about we make the best cars in the world. It's now about we are a great company because we do this for the world, and oh, by the way, we also pay attention to the cars we build. You follow me? Does that make sense? Okay. This is a big thought, and that's maybe why I was struggling with it so much. Number 3, what's the big idea? You may have, if you've taken as many marketing classes and read as many marketing books in the 40 years that I have, this would be like a cliche. I would go to many, many, many seminars, and I'd sit in class, and I'd be struggling to pay attention and taking notes, and the guy would stand up like I'm standing up now, and he'd go, you have to ask the question, what's the big idea? And everybody, yeah, my brain just exploded. What's the big idea? And it's true. People today still talk about the big idea. In another class, I will talk about the big idea. In advertising management, I will talk about the big idea because it's valid, it's current today. But I'm opening up a little peephole into the future here. So it's not going to be about the big idea necessarily in the future. It will be about lots and lots and lots of little ideas. It will be about a company whose big idea is to make a really ecologically friendly automobile. But how do they express that? It's going to be different in Oshkosh than it is in Wales, than it is in Namibia, than it is in Botswana. It's going to be a bunch of little ideas. Collectively, they're going to be doing a lot of things, all with a similar kind of altruism, and that's what's going to give them their big idea. It's all these little ideas. Why? Well, because when you're online, you can be so close up and personal. You can so much exist in a virtual community. You can so much exist as customer relation management. You can so much exist in social networking that you get to do that. It's okay. So the people on the east side of town may love you because you built a park, a little park for their playground, for their kids in a big apartment complex. The people on the west side of town may love you because you put 300 jobs into the community because you built a new no-emissions auto plant. Same company, still focused on what you do for a living, but you're exercising your brand in different ways. You follow me? Does that make sense? And number 4. Who's on first? What's on second? Of course, this is a reference to the old Abbott and Costello line. Who's on first? No, who's on second? Now, what's on second? I forget the rest of it. So-and-so is on third or something like that. It's a funny bit if you've never heard it. It goes back to the 1930s, and it's an old burlesque bit, but it's hilarious when you see Laurel, Abbott and Costello do it.
And they're from New Jersey.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. Marketing in the future will not be about putting the product first. Marketing in the future will be about people first. So who's on first? People. Your customers, your virtual communities. The people who are not yet your customers. The people who potentially could become your customers. This sounds, and I have to admit, it sounded to me ridiculously obvious, but too often